after a member of the Grammy-nominated hip-hop group Migos was shot to death.
The 28-year-old rapper known as Takeoff was early this morning following a party in Houston.
Name and everything, because he put himself in a position where he's cooperating and telling a lot of different lies, so we may as well shine the light on the real root to the issue.
I got many calls from Houston and outside of Houston, and everyone spoke of what a great young man this is.
Y'all, this story just keeps getting crazier, and now it's looking like there's way more to Takeoff's than we thought. Takeoff's redrum was one of the most heartbreaking moments in hip-hop in recent years. A night that was supposed to be a laid-back hangout in Houston turned into a tragedy nobody saw coming. When the news broke, every headline had the same story: Takeoff unalived over a dice game gone wrong. But nah, that's not even close to the full story. There are still a ton of misconceptions about what really went down that night, and today we're breaking it all the way down. We're talking about the real story behind Takeoff's redrum, how things escalated that night, and the wild case developments that left us with more questions than answers. And trust me, this one goes deep. Takeoff was 1/3 of Migos, the group that took Atlanta's trap sound and pushed it into the mainstream. Migos wasn't just a rap group, they were a movement. Quavo, Offset, and Takeoff grew up together in Gwinnett County, Georgia. Quavo was Takeoff's uncle, but they were more like brothers. They introduced Offset to rap in the 6th grade, and from there, Migos was born.
Think about doing a show like next show we do, hopefully it's big when they get out. Say we do the show.
Yeah.
So we do the show. And you know how every show we do, we free our set for it work come on. When he get out though, he on that mode.
Start like once we did Versace, it was like, that was the pop off to the flow. You know what I'm saying? He really a part of the Migos flow.
And he had a full debate.
And listen, they didn't just make hits, they changed the entire sound of modern hip-hop. Their triplet flow, iconic. Songs like Versace and Hannah Montana set the trend. And when Drake hopped on the Versace remix, it was game over. Migos became unstoppable.
Even confused Nicki Minaj, because Nicki said she didn't realize you was rapping about her on Motorsport.
Cap.
But by 2022, things were looking rocky. Migos wasn't moving as a unit anymore. Rumors were flying about Offset falling out with Quavo over his ex, Saweetie. And while they never confirmed it, the tension was obvious. So when Takeoff and Quavo started doing their own thing as Unk and Few, fans knew something was up.
Come on, let's just get to it. I don't have time to play today. Sweetie got to shut up. That's my take. I'm not listening to Sweetie until she answers the question everybody waiting for the answer. Did you Offset or not?
Now let's talk about that fateful night, November 1st, 2022. Takeoff and Quavo were in Houston, attending a private party at 810 Billiards and Bowling. The event was hosted by Jay Prince Jr., the son of Jay Prince, one of the most powerful figures in the rap industry. This wasn't just some random club event. It was an exclusive, invitation-only affair with around 40 to 50 people, industry figures, promoters, and close affiliates of Jay Prince Jr.'s security was present. But because it was a private gathering, things felt more laid back. The official event wrapped up around 1 a.m., but people stuck around vibing and talking. By 2:30 a.m., the crowd had moved to the 3rd floor balcony overlooking the Houston streets. That's when things took a dark turn. Quavo got into a heated argument over a dice game. Somebody had lost a lot of money, and the situation got tense real fast. Surveillance footage showed Quavo trying to walk away, but before he could leave, things popped off. His last words? "We don't play like that, bro." Seconds later, fire. At least 2 different weapons were fired. Chaos erupted. People ran in every direction. Takeoff was hit twice, once in the back and once in the head. And just like that, one of the most influential voices in hip-hop was gone. When police arrived, the scene was nearly empty. Witnesses had already dipped. Security was there, but nobody saw who pulled the trigger. And here's where things get frustrating. Over 30 people were at that party, but not one of them was willing to talk.
A lot of the people that were there fled the scene and did not stick around to give a statement.
Detectives had to rely on hard evidence, surveillance footage, ballistics, and cell phone videos. Eventually, they identified Patrick Clark as the primary suspect. He was seen on camera holding a gun and firing shots in Takeoff's direction. Forensic evidence confirmed his bullets matched the ones that hit Takeoff. On December 2nd, 2022, Clark was arrested and charged with first-degree redrum. But even with Clark in custody, something still felt off. Witnesses stayed silent, the details were murky, and there were whispers that Clark wasn't acting alone.
We began with a major development in the of Migos rapper Takeoff. Police telling us this afternoon that an arrest was made. 33-year-old Patrick Xavier Clark is charged with.
Then things got even weirder when Clark posted a $1 million bond. Let me break this down. At first, his bond was set at $2 million, but his legal team argued that he couldn't afford it, so the judge dropped it to $1 million, still a hefty price.
Well, a judge has denied lowering the bond for the man accused of
Migos rapper Takeoff. Patrick Clark's bond will now remain at $1 million despite attempts by his attorneys to have it lowered.
But here's the kicker. Clark somehow came up with the cash, and when people started digging into the paperwork, they found a private investigator listed as the facilitator of his release. But that investigator denied being the one who paid. So who did? Clark's attorneys claimed a family friend and a concerned citizen helped secure his bond. But the real source of those funds remains a mystery. And let's not forget, right after Takeoff's, Clark applied for an expedited passport to Mexico and had a big stack of cash on him when he got arrested. So was he planning to flee?
The man charged with Migos rapper Takeoff has managed to post bond. Patrick Clark was being held on $1 million bond. He's accused of opening fire.
And here's where the real speculation kicks in. Jay Prince Jr. hosted the party, and his family's influence in Houston's rap scene is no secret. Some people believe there's more to this story, maybe even a cover-up. And just when we thought this case couldn't get any wilder, boom, plot twist. A Houston Forensic Science Center analyst, Relly Austin, who was reportedly involved in processing evidence in the Takeoff case, got fired. And not just for some small slip-up, we're talking about serious evidence processing errors. According to official documents, this former analyst allegedly mishandled DNA evidence in multiple cases. And now, people are wondering if those mistakes affected Takeoff's case too. Rel Austin wasn't just some background figure, she was actually considered a witness in the case against Patrick Clark, the man police believe shot and Takeoff at that Houston bowling alley. That means the work she did directly tied into the evidence used against Clark. So when reports came out that she'd been making major mistakes on other cases, people rightfully started side-eyeing everything she touched. The Harris County District Attorney's Office filed what's called a Brady Notice. For those who don't know, a Brady Notice is a legal requirement where prosecutors have to tell the defense if there's any evidence that could call their client's guilt into question. Translation: Clark's defense team now knows that the forensic analyst tied to his case was let go for serious quality issues. According to reports, Relly Austin was terminated for lack of quality work and other concerning behavior. And while her documented mistakes happened in separate cases, her involvement in the Takeoff investigation can't be ignored. So now we're left wondering how much of the evidence in the Takeoff case passed through her hands. If she was already mixing up DNA and skipping steps in other investigations, who's to say she didn't do the same here? If any of the evidence against Patrick Clark was processed by her, it could completely change the direction of this trial. This situation leaves the case wide open. What looked like a rock-solid case against Clark is now full of doubt, and with the forensic credibility falling apart, Clark's defense team might just have the leverage they need to challenge everything. A lot of people have been saying that Jay Prince Jr. was somehow responsible for the whole Takeoff situation, and if you know how Houston's scene works, this theory doesn't sound far-fetched. See, in certain cities, Houston included, there's this thing called checking in. Basically, when out-of-town artists come through, they're supposed to connect with the right people to guarantee their safety and security. And since the Prince family's Mob Ties crew has so much influence, they're the ones a lot of artists check in with when they hit Houston. Now here's the problem. Takeoff and Quavo did check in. They did what they were supposed to do. But when things went left, Jay Prince Jr. and his people failed to protect them. And that's got a lot of people questioning their whole operation. When artists check in, they're not just showing respect, they're putting their safety in someone else's hands. And when that safety isn't guaranteed, it makes people question the whole system. This isn't even the first time something wild went down on Mob Tie's watch. People still haven't forgotten about the Duke the Jeweler situation, where he was robbed and after being around Jay Prince Jr.'s crew. So now we've got a pattern, and it's not a good look. If people stop trusting Mob Ties, it could seriously damage their influence in Houston's rap scene. And with this being the second high-profile connected to their name, people are already starting to distance themselves. Artists might think twice before checking in, and the Prince family's reputation could take a major hit. And if there's any truth to the rumors of millions being paid to keep things quiet, that's only going to make things worse. At this point, we have way more questions than answers. Like, how deep does this Mob Ties connection really go? Was Takeoff's just a tragic accident, or is there something bigger being covered up? And if millions really were paid to keep this quiet, who's pulling the strings behind the scenes? I want to hear from y'all, so hit the comments and sound off. And while you're at it, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe so you never miss a drop when we get into these deep dives. Also, make sure you check out the next video on your end screen. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.